Good Friday morning, everyone, and welcome into today's daily Bible reading for November the 3rd. Today we are reading together in Second Chronicles chapter 10, or excuse me, Second Chronicles chapter 11. Yesterday in our read of Second Chronicles chapter 10, we read about the kingdom dividing. Now we're going to see the aftermath of this taking place, what Rehoboam initially wants to do, and then what Yahweh stops him from doing and what he actually does. And then we really just see the two kingdoms going in very opposite directions pertaining to the most important aspect of their kingdoms, and that being their religion. How are they going to serve God? Are they going to serve God? Well, we'll see that in our read today here in Second Chronicles chapter 11. Let's begin reading in verse number 1. 2 Kings chapter 11, verse number 1. Second Chronicles chapter 11, verse number 1, when Rehoboam arrived in Jerusalem, he mobilized the house of Judah and Benjamin, 180,000 fit young soldiers, to fight against Israel to restore the reign of Rehoboam. But the word of Yahweh came to Shemaiah, the man of God. Say to Rehoboam, son of Solomon, king of Judah, to all Israel in Judah and Benjamin, and to the rest of the people, this is what Yahweh says. You are not to march up and fight against your brothers. Each of you return home, for this incident has come from me. So they listened to what Yahweh said and turned back from going against Jerusalem. Rehoboam stayed in Jerusalem, and he fortified cities in Judah. He built up Bethlehem, Etam, Tekoa, Beth Zur, Soko, Adullam, Gath, Marashah, Ziph, Adoraim, Lachish, Azekah, Zorah, Aijalon, and Hebron, which are fortified cities in Judah and in Benjamin. He strengthened their fortifications and put leaders in them with supplies of food, oil, and wine. He also put large shields and spears in each and every city to make them very strong. So Judah and Benjamin were his. The rest, or the priests and Levites from all their regions throughout Israel, took their stand with Rehoboam. For the Levites left their pasture lands and their possessions and went to Judah and Jerusalem, because Jeroboam and his sons, so the northern king, refused to let them serve as priest of Yahweh. Jeroboam appointed his own priest for the high places, the goat demons, and the golden calves he had made. Those from every tribe of Israel who had determined in their hearts to seek Yahweh, their God, followed the Levites to Jerusalem to sacrifice to Yahweh, the God of their ancestors. So they strengthened the kingdom of Judah and supported Rehoboam, son of Solomon, for 3 years, because they walked in the ways of David and Solomon for 3 years. Rehoboam married Mahalath, daughter of David's son Jeremoth, and Abahiel, daughter of Jesse's son Eliab. She bore sons to him, Jush, Shemariah, and Zaham. After her, he married Maacah, daughter of Absalom. She bore Abijah, Attai, Ziza, and Shelemith to him. Rehoboam loved Maacah, daughter of Absalom, more than all his wives and concubines. He acquired 18 wives and 60 concubines, and was the father of 28 sons and 60 daughters. Rehoboam appointed Abijah, son of Maacah, as chief leader among his brothers, intending to make him king. Rehoboam also showed discernment by dispersing some of his sons to all the regions of Judah and Benjamin and to all the fortified cities. He gave them plenty of provisions and sought many wives for them. And that is the text of First Chronicles chapter 11. It begins with Rehoboam collecting the fighting forces of Judah and Benjamin and saying, all right, we need to go get the northern tribes back, which, again, this to me is kind of silly, because he's really the one that pushed them away. He's the one that did not make the wise decision in loosening and lightening some of the oppression that his father had put on them, and instead making it worse. So he basically pushes them away and then says, oh, you know what would be best is if we go and fight to bring them back. Well, no, that's so silly. That's just not a smart way to go about this entire process. And he says, all right, so we're just going to fight. And he gets all these people together, But Yahweh has other plans. So he sends for Shemaiah, one of his prophets. He sends Shemaiah to Rehoboam, who tells him, nope, you do not need to fight. You are not to march and fight against your brothers. You need to go home because everything that's happening is for me. And that goes back to chapter 10 and verse number 15. The king did not listen to the people because the turn of events came from God, in order that Yahweh might carry out his word that he had spoken through Ahijah the Shilonite to Jeroboam son of Nebat. So again, all this is part of Yahweh's plan, and he didn't divide the kingdom just for no reason. No, he divided the kingdom and weakened the kingdom because they had begun rebelling against him through seeking after other gods and not being loyal to the covenant. So to their credit, though, they listen, they do what Yahweh says, and they all stop from going after Jeroboam and Israel. So instead of going on the offensive, we're going to see Rehoboam now go on the defensive, or really take a defensive posture by fortifying many of the cities in Judah that we read. He strengthened their fortifications. He supplied them with food, oil, and wine. He gave them large shields and spears. So, if we can't go attack, we're going to make sure that we ourselves cannot be attacked. And so that's what he does. He sets up all these, or those cities that were in strategic locations and already at least partially fortified, he fortifies even more to make them much more difficult to attack and overtake. Now, that's the military status of Judah at this point. But what about the religious status of both kingdoms, of Judah and Israel? Well, we're told that the priests and the Levites, they choose to side with Rehoboam in Judah and Jerusalem, and partly because Jeroboam is going to set up his own religion. And that's really the lasting legacy of Jeroboam. What we read all throughout the king's text is that those Israel practiced the abominable practices of Jeroboam, and the fact that he set up paganistic worship of Yahweh in the form of the high places, for the goat demons, for the golden calves that he had set up at Dan and Bethel. He did not want the actual priest of Yahweh from the Levites. He wanted his own people. And so that's what he did. He basically gave the Levites and priests nowhere else to go. So them, along with those from every tribe of Israel who had a heart for Yahweh, who determined in their hearts to seek Yahweh, they also went with the Levites. So we have the priests and the Levites, and then those who wanted to remain faithful to Yahweh, who did not want to participate in this paganistic practice, they all go together to Jerusalem, to Judah, and they support Rehoboam. And it says they did this for 3 years, because in those 3 years, they walked in the ways of David and Solomon. So for 3 years, their practice of religion was good. They did what was right. So Judah and Jerusalem maintaining faithfulness in many respects, at least from the religious respect, whereas the northern tribes of Israel, they go off into paganistic practices and completely disrespect God, show no loyalty for his covenant whatsoever. So military, they've set up their defenses. Judah has religiosity. They've got the priests, they've got the Levites, they've got those who want to serve Yahweh. And then as far as politically goes, Rehoboam marries a number of wives. The text says he has 18 wives and 60 concubines. Again, that's not good. The kings were not to accumulate women in this way, but he did. And his favorite wife was Maacah, the daughter of Absalom, which we know the story there with Absalom. But the son Abijah, he makes him the chief, and he intends to make him king, and he eventually will be king in chapter 13 of 2 Chronicles. But then Rehoboam, the chronicler, highlights that he showed discernment. He showed some wisdom by sending out his sons to have responsibilities in many of these various fortified cities. Instead of just sitting around doing nothing and not learning and not growing, he sends them out to mature and to be able to exercise responsibility so that they can have very good leadership skills. And not only that, it also keeps them all from being in one place and, again, being an easy target. So at this point, we really see, I think, again, the two kingdoms going opposite directions. Judah is at least treading water, seemingly doing okay, at least from a religious perspective. They're certainly much better off than what we see in Israel, in the fact that they've gone into full paganistic idolatry and worship of Yahweh in regards to the high priest, the goat demons, the golden calves, the illegitimate priesthood. Everything there is going poorly. whereas we have at least some things that seem to be going well in Judah. So if you have any questions or comments about this text here in 2 Chronicles 11, please feel free to leave that in the comment section below. And we'll continue to work through the text tomorrow, looking at chapter 12, where he, unfortunately, we're going to see in verse number 1, just a little preview, when Rehoboam had established his sovereignty and royal power, he abandoned the law of the Lord. He abandoned the law of Yahweh. So what we might be thinking here in 2 Chronicles, again, we're not familiar with the history that's already been told. Well, things seem to be going okay. We're going to see tomorrow that they don't, and just shows the real need for consistency in our faith, continuing to put in great effort to honor God in everything that we do, because if we don't do that, before long, we can find ourselves really off the good path and doing things that simply should we not be doing as God's people. So maintaining covenant loyalty, it was important for the Israelites. It remains important for us. May we be really concerted in our effort to honor God in every way and not find ourselves going completely off the path as Israel has up to this point, and on the way that Judah is making it, as we see tomorrow in chapter 12. Again, thanks for tuning in today. Hope you have a great rest of your Friday. May God bless you in all that you do, and hope you'll join in again with me tomorrow as we read together from 2 Chronicles chapter 12. Hope to see you then. Take care, and God bless.